All right, welcome to the first Dastardly Doodles. So I'm gonna tell a little story, and Michaela's gonna draw it.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I've never drawn
We're
on a
gonna
recording before.
just see how it goes, doodling along with the story. So the topic that I would like to talk to you about today is goblins. Inspired by my cat named Goblin. I wanted to do a little history into where goblins came from, different stories of them. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you your first prompt for kind of the history and background. I want you to just draw your depiction of a goblin, however you want to draw it.
What would you do if I just drew your boyfriend?
Could be accurate.
Okay, so
All right.
have a
So, goblins have become made popular by popular culture today with books and movies like J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle Earth. The word goblin was used more in The Hobbit, whereas I guess in Lord of the Rings it was more synonymous with orcs, like interchangeably.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
But yeah, so more talked about it in The Hobbit than Lord of the Rings, but definitely popularized there, and then also in the 70s and 80s with Dungeons and Dragons really becoming popular. And in Dungeons and Dragons, goblins are usually like random encounters, and they're tricksters. They set traps and ambush travelers. So those are more like classic kind of depictions of goblins with like how they cause mischief and are like just these little creatures. But other popular culture, more like in the 2000s, and before that as well, because these comics were written in like the 60s and so, but things like the Green Goblin and Spider-Man, it's kind of a different depiction of that, but bases it off of the same sort of thing. And hobgoblins, and I even found something saying that Smurfs were sort of a type of goblin, which I guess I can see, but I don't know. It just seems a little weird. But I found that a lot of things.
That they're like blue.
Yeah, goblins aren't all the same, and that's something that I really learned is like a lot of things are just described as goblin-like. Like, every region and culture has multiple versions of what they consider goblins with different names and, like, what they do and are known for. So going into just the origins and history of where the term goblin even came from, and I apologize in advance. I tried my best to look up pronunciations for things, but there's a lot of different languages here. So the word goblin came into English use in the 14th century from the Anglo-Norman gobelin, which just has an E in the middle. And before that, even, it had been used in different literature, such as the Old French gobelin, used as early as 1195 in Amboise of Normandy's Garcante. He is a Norman poet, and Garcante translates to Holy War. So the poem is called The History of the Holy War, and it mentions goblins.
Goblins were in the Holy War?
I guess so. Well, we'll get to that a little bit more soon. Similar to that, Gobelinus in medieval Latin was chronicled by a Benedictine monk named Orderic Vitalis, and that was before even 1141. And he gave this name to the devil or daemon haunting the country around Evreux, Normandy. So goblins were really tied to like devils, little demons.
Used to be demons. Okay, when I think of goblins, I don't think of anything too demon-like, but maybe I'll give them little horns.
Yeah, some are really depicted as, especially the original ones, very like evil, just little demons more than anything else. So yeah, the real word for him, it came from like a devil.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of religious ties there, which I didn't think of. But in our, like, English American definition, it's typically a small, mischievous, or outright malicious creature. And they're especially greedy for things like gold and jewelry. And in the Dungeons and Dragons community, there's, like, dice goblins who hoard dice.
You may not be.
Yeah, we definitely have some friends who do that. And they often have magical abilities similar to a fairy or a demon. Okay. So I found a lot of other depictions there's so many, and I just picked a few of different versions of goblins with different names and, like, what they're known for. So, in our Western folklore, they're typically wanderers who spread mischief, but they can often attach themselves to a single home, where they're known to bang on pots and pans, snatch clothes off of sleeping people, move furniture around, and flee after knocking on walls and doors. So, the original Ding Dong Ditchers, I guess.
Y'all ain't get no sleep because of me.
No, I ain't got no sleep because of you. Y'all ain't no sleep because of me. That's my favorite video.
I'd love to just wake up one morning and just, like, this loud-ass noise in the kitchen, like, what the fuck is that? And I walk in and your cat
I
is
mean,
just, like...
literally, it's the perfect name for my cat because she fits that description. She'll just knock things over, and it's just Goblin.
Every morning.
Mainly just a trickster. And they're often thought to help parents discipline their children by rewarding them with presents when they're good and punishing them when they're disobedient.
If you had a little creature that you associated with demons and it gave you presents to your child for being good, like, what?
Mom, what's this weird little thing on my bed? I guess it's kind of like the tooth fairy, but, like,
Well,
you know, you're not really
your
good.
teeth if you're being bad?
You know, depends on the goblin, I suppose. I'm not really sure what the punishing for disobedience is. It could be like a miniature Krampus.
Oh my god.
A lot of things kind of stem from goblins, just being little little shits. So that sort of thing also stems from another source, which is the Greek word kobolos, which means rogue, imp, or evil spirit.
New nickname for your boyfriend was dropped.
He is Greek. Also, the German word kobold, which translates to leprechaun. So I guess leprechauns and goblins are kind of synonymous with each other as well. Which makes sense, because they hoard gold at the end of the rainbow and then, like, kind of trick you out of it. Yeah. Is Rumpelstiltskin like a leprechaun?
You know, I don't know the lore of
another story. I don't know.
You should bring that up next time.
Yeah. I wonder if there's, like, real encounters with
real encounters with Rumpelstiltskin. He's, like, just gone around and, like, targeted firstborns everywhere.
There's
What does it do with the children?
I don't know. But, you know, it probably stems from, like, some folklore that, like, snatches firstborn children. I don't know.
You know, yeah,
everything kind of stems from some old tale. Here's some more specific versions of goblins that I found. So there's a red cap. Do you want to take a guess at why it's called a red cap?
Does it have anything to do with mushrooms?
No, unfortunately.
I don't know.
So it's from Anglo-Scottish border folklore, and it's a type of goblin who dyes its hat in human blood. So if you see a goblin wearing a red hat, it's a bad sign.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So hobgoblins, which you probably heard of before, they're just the friendly trickster version of goblins. They're from Scottish. My Scottish cottage. And pilgrim folklore and literature. A lot of goblins come from literature more than anything else. But, you know, maybe it's from actual things, like the monk writing about the daemon in the town.
The daemon. I find it so funny that somebody could actually be, like, afraid of a creature and call it a goblin. There's not a lot of intimidating, like...
It just sounds really cute now.
Maybe
it's just because I named my cat
It's
Goblin,
probably because you're cat, because I don't know if most people, like, align them as being cute, but...
Usually they're not. Goblin was, though.
Well, Goblin's adorable.
Just have big ears. So this next one has a lot of different spellings, pronunciations. It depends on the tribe. There's a lot of tribes that it kind of stems from in the same area and different versions of it. The tribe, the Wampanoag, which is kind of around Massachusetts and Rhode Island area. There's a few common pronunciations that I'm going to try my best here. It does not look like how it's spelled, so I would never have guessed this, but Bugwajimini, I'm so sorry, or Buwajiman, Bugwajiman, Bugwajawinimni.
Okay. And that means goblin in their language?
So it's spelled like Pukwudgie, and whichever, like each tribe kind of has its own name and pronunciation for it, but it all kind of translates to little wild man of the woods that vanishes. So it's just a little creature that runs around and disappears.
I wish I knew how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I tried to read over it. I have the hyphenetics. I just did not learn languages very well. I wish I did.
Like the little man in the woods.
The little man, wild cute. Man in the woods that vanishes. It's like, oh, there he goes. So cute. I don't know if he's considered evil, good, trickster, but just kind of vanishes. One more is the Mucky, or Mookie. It's a pale goblin who lives in the caves in the Andes. In Quechuan folklore, he's a miner who's confined to those underground spaces. So he's kind of.
So it's just a guy who's stuck in there?
Yeah, just a little guy who's stuck mining forever.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, that'd suck. I'd be upset too.
I don't think they have like Tinder for caves, so like, they're probably pretty lonely.
I wonder if there's multiple, or if it's just one little guy per cave, like, all alone.
Hopefully he has
they have little communities, like the Seven Dwarfs, but they can leave the cave at the end of the day. But yeah, so basically there's so many variations, different names, different regions and cultures that are just referred to as goblin-like and kind of share similar characteristics. And even each culture seems to have multiple different kinds. So they'll have ones that are evil, some that are helpful even, and some that are just harmless tricksters. So that's what I have on the background.
Okay.
Which ones is he taking inspiration from here? Is he kind of
like,
a little...
do the red hat.
Kind of looks like a little miner.
Yeah, I was gonna give him like a pickaxe or something. I don't know. Goblins are like such an interesting like little creature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild to me how many like different variations there are. Like, were they all around the same time, do you know? Or like
Yeah, I mean, they really range. Like, those earliest literatures that I found are from like 1100 and like even before that. The English word came about in like the 14th century. But yeah, there's so many that like have different words that like are similar in meaning, but each culture, it's kind of one of those things where like each culture has it without talking to each other and they're all similar,
right.
And then like, so it makes you wonder. I don't know.
Do we have like an infestation?
Maybe they're just demons.
Demons confirmed.
Is he flicking us off?
He's sassy, okay?
Cutie. Next D&D character.
I was thinking about like just making it like a one-sided romper.
Aww.
I just thought it'd be cute. Old booty popping.
Yeah, I always kind of picture them like hunched over. Like, they probably got a little booty sticking out.
Oh, dude, I should be making him hunched. That's a good idea. I should have him like,
You're just gonna bend him at the waist.
Just like a little squat or something.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so how the name Goblin came about for my cat was kind of an endearing term of just somebody who's goofy. And when I met her, she was just...
Oh, she was...
a weirdo.
So much.
So lovey, though. But she had these giant ears that were too big for her little kitten head, really pointy, and these bright green eyes. And I always think of goblins as green for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's the Green Goblin in me, but...
The Green Goblin. Willem Dafoe will always be in my heart.
He's the real goblin, just a little too tall.
Well, Willem Dafoe plays a lot of goblin-esque, like, roles. I mean, maybe it's just the fact that his face is so malleable.
In the lighthouse, he's a goblin.
Oh,
So,
definitely. I love when he just, like, beams light on, like, Robert Pattinson's character.
Is that a trait of goblins? Just beaming light up? It could be. I mean, who knows?
Just have, like, flashlight eyes.
Can I turn them off?
Just, like, something like that. Maybe I should have just drawn Willem Dafoe, honestly.
I think Red Cap might be my favorite.
I just think it's, like, such a cool...
So mysterious.
Plus, like, it's creative. You know, it's really gross and kind of scary, but, you know, good for Goblin. I left the little eye circles there.
That reminds me of the Smurfs. Are Smurfs blue caps? Because they have little hats.
But their hats are white and they're blue.
They took it a little too far.
Yeah, they just went a little...
Maybe they're red caps that haven't found their victims yet.
Oh my god. Like, the Smurfs' like entire goal is actually to get Gargamel, and he's justified in
Gargamel. He knows their secret, and everybody's like, "Come on, Gargamel!"
And he's like, "They're trying to kill me. They want to dip their hats red. Like,
they want to dip their hats in my blood."
Also, the biggest thing about Smurfs that really just kind of terrifies me is the fact that there's one female Smurf.
Only one.
Not to say they can't, like, asexually produce or, like, by budding.
Yeah,
but,
I
like,
guess I don't know how goblins reproduce, but...
Yeah, that didn't come up in your findings, did it?
Didn't look into it.
How do goblins do the
They
goblin
just come
thing?
about naturally. Well, actually, one of my stories involves how a goblin is made.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, like,
Certain
boil and
type.
trouble and...
Boil, toil, and... kind of.
Yeah, like he's
You know?
factory made.
Not mass-produced, but yeah.
Trying to give him a snapback.
Tice's snapback. I wonder how they evolve in the mines.
I just feel bad because a lot of those descriptions were literally just like a man out in the woods or
I
something.
know, I'm like, no wonder he causes mischief.
Or a
You
guy
just
that's
put him
stuck
down.
in a cave.
Like, got nothing to do.
Yeah, like I'd be a little upset too.
Alright. Are you ready for your next prompt? Completely out of context?
Okay, sure.
I want you to draw a baby climbing a utility pole.
Yep, like an electric pole?
Yeah. We'll get to what it means.
Okay.
Like, so, here I have...
Just one sec here. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna Google utility pole.
Now I
Shit.
have two specific types of goblins that I'm going to dive deeper into for you.
Okay.
Trying to find, like, real-life stories or accounts of goblins.
Is
So,
this like modern day?
kind of. Yeah. Yeah, they go back a ways, but also modern day.
Okay.
So a mixture.
Who's telling people they're seeing goblins these
Well,
days? But
yo, the other day I saw a goblin.
Ah. Good for you.
Hopefully my year of French doesn't fail me here, although I'm sure it will. I will say, though, that in my research, I found this pronounced, like, 2 different ways. So we'll see. It's the Nain Rouge of Detroit, which is French for red dwarf. And yeah, I saw it as... It sounded like in the article I read that most people refer to it as Nain. But there was, like, one professor who called it Nan or Non. But I'm just going to refer to it as Nain because it rhymes with something else. So yeah, Nain, he looks pretty much how you might expect with that name. He's a devilish-like creature with red skin, pointed ears, and fangs. So basically a little demon, as the French account would have you know. So the legend of Nain Rouge goes back to 1701, when the city of Detroit was founded. It said that Antoine Lamont de la Mothe Cadillac... First of all, what's up with super long names?
His last name's Cadillac?
Yeah, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but he's a Cadillac. I wonder if he invented the Cadillac.
Maybe.
No, cars didn't come around for a long time. I'm
What
stupid.
year
I'm
was this?
1701.
Okay, I was right there with you. I'm like, maybe.
His horse and buggy named the Cadillac. Maybe his great-great-grandfather's son.
Yeah, maybe he started the lineage.
Alright, so yeah, Cadillac was attacked by the Nain Rouge, who then put a curse on him and the city he would found. Since then, the Nain Rouge has been seen before major disasters that take place in the city. Some examples of this include the Battle of Bloody Run, which was in 1763, and a lot of people died, and the 1805 fire that nearly destroyed the entire city, and also the 12th Street riot in 1967. And Here's where the baby part comes in. In 1976, two DTE workers, which DTE is an energy company in Detroit, they claimed to have spotted what looked like a child climbing a utility pole before a crippling snowstorm hit the city. Which, I'm a bit more concerned about a child climbing a utility pole.
Yeah.
Like, did they... I don't know if, like... Did they just
like a
assume it was the Nain Rouge? Like, you're silly. Or did they actually... I want to know, did they check to see if a child was okay?
I don't know.
What is the rest of the story here? That's all I found.
They didn't have anything else? It just looked like a baby up there?
Just like, dude, do you see that? Like, is that a child climbing that pole? That's not our job to figure it out.
Not my kid.
Jesus. Man. So... a bit more concerning things, I'd say, than Nain Rouge, but supposedly maybe the little demon baby was Nain Rouge.
Demon baby. So, was it actually like a child, or just they thought it was a demon?
A child-like thing.
Okay.
Maybe it's one of those things where, like, they saw it and when they got closer it disappeared. But I suppose if it's small, like a goblin, you know... You think maybe you'd notice the goblin-like features of it, but maybe if it already made it to the top, it's a little...
It's hard for me to understand, like, if it's a red creature, too, like...
Yeah.
I mean, children are maybe more pink, but, like, they're not, like, a bright
well, I
red.
suppose if it's in the middle of a snowstorm, maybe it had hypothermia. It's just so bad. Like, somebody check on this child.
It's a lot of babies.
These babies look so unhappy. Alright, so while you tell the rest of your baby, I'll keep talking about Nain. So, that's kind of the last written report of it. But since 2010, every year on the Sunday after the vernal equinox, which is the spring equinox taking place around March 20th, the streets are filled with what has become known as Marche du Nain Rouge. So, like a parade, all-day festivities. The creators, Francis Greneau and Joe Uhl, were Wayne State student... They were Wayne State University Law School students at the time, and they described the creation as a sort of Mardi Gras for Detroit, celebrating their French roots and history. So, I actually found out about this entire thing and the Nain Rouge from, like, stumbling upon their website, which was just, like, kind of a trip, because I had never heard of it before, and then I just see this website filled with, like, festivities for the Nain Rouge. So, on its front page, it has this description for the event. The Nain Rouge has been a harbinger of doom since the time of Detroit's founding.
Oh my god.
Each year we hold a parade in the Cass Corridor to trick the Nain with our terrible French and costumes. So, you know, at least if I'm pronouncing the French wrong, it's in the spirit of it as well. You should look up this website also.
Okay.
Just to look at it.
Which one?
It's called marchedunainrouge.com. So yeah, I was canceled this year, but like if you just scroll through and see like the pictures and stuff, it's just like Mardi Gras for Detroit, like they said. It's just, like
that's just like fun
a
though.
big parade, but they like have this whole festivity where like people dress up as the Nain and they like come out and perform as him and they taunt him. And, like, everybody dresses up as, like, little demons and devils, like, see over there, like...
This looks so fun.
That guy looks so unhappy.
I know, I don't know what's going on there.
His Cadillac. Just, like... So, yeah. Seems like a really fun time. But, there's another side to this story.
Oh?
A man, who you and I have actually met before... started a yearly protest against the parade. Originally it was just him, but now he's gathered a small but growing group of individuals who show up with signs and shirts that say things like, Detroit hearts Nain Rouge, be nice to Nain, stop Nain shame. So they celebrate Nain rather than taunting him like the parade does. This man is an anomalistic researcher who travels the world speaking about all sorts of anomalies,
no.
ghosts, and stuff. In the 1990s, he used to be a researcher for the show Unsolved Mysteries, and his name is John E. L. Tenney. We met him at Paracon, and he drew the thing for you. Like
really?
Yeah.
So he's like, advocate for this demon? Or...
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a bit of his perspective on it here.
Because we saw, he had a really interesting presentation. Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
We listened to him speak at this Paracon event several years ago, and we went to his presentation.
Because his was about how he had, like, died at one point.
Yeah, right? He, like, died and came back to life, and he had all these paranormal experiences he talked about, and we talked to him after as well, and he was drawing, just, like, doodling something that he gave to you.
Mm-hmm. He drew a lot of cool aliens and, like, demon stuff. It's, like,
do you still we followed him on Instagram. He just posts, like, stuff
him,
there, yeah. So, yeah, he's a cool dude. And here's his side of the story. So, Tenney argues that this version of the name that the parade speaks of and harasses is all wrong. Apparently, the Nain Rouge never actually showed up in historical records until 1883, when the book Legends of Le Detroit by Marie Caroline Watson Hamlin was published, and that was about 180 years after the supposed story with Cadillac. Although I think in the book there's a section that talks about Cadillac meeting the Nain, but like rather than it just straight up cursing him, like he taunted the Nain or something, and it, like, caused him to be like, you should appreciate what you have, and I'm gonna put this curse on you now. It's, like, basically Cadillac fucked with him first.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah, apparently there was no written record of this legend until this book was published 180 years after this supposed incident. And these tales were written by Hamlin to try to keep French heritage alive in Detroit. And tales of Lutons, their French folklore's goblins, were very common, so just kind of brought that over in these stories of Detroit and its founding. There's also some theories that Nain Rouge could have stemmed from local Native American tribes at the time. Like, there were some pictures of, like, kind of little red creatures drawn on rocks and stuff, or maybe even a bit of racism of the local natives. It's kind of unsure. Yeah, so the actual history of Nain Rouge is kind of up in the air. The main understanding, though, is that it at least comes from this book that talks about, like, goblins of French folklore. And, yeah, so apparently Tenney says that crowds at this march and parade have been really hostile and aggressive to him, like shoving him, ripping signs, yelling obscenities, and saying, like, if he's pro-Nain, he's anti-Detroit. So kind of harsh, but I kind of feel like maybe it's just a few people who are, like, really drunk and getting into too much of the spirit of things. Most people are probably just there having fun. Like, people bring their kids to this. It's just, like, a citywide celebration. So I feel like most people are probably nice, but there's definitely those that get way too into
and, like, this or that. It seems like more of, like, a celebration/parade at this point, rather than actually celebrating anything in particular.
Exactly. Like, in that article that I read, the same one that Tenney talks in, they also talked to the founders of the event, who... Yeah, Nain is kind of the symbol of Detroit, but they really said it was about celebrating their French heritage, like Mardi Gras. They wanted a celebration like that in Detroit. So it's mainly, like you said, a celebration of the city and just everybody getting together and having a good time. They just have something that they focus it on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so either way, whatever the history of the Nain Rouge actually comes from, the point of the controversy is this. Those who attend the Marche du Nain Rouge see Nain as a bringer of the evils and destruction that he precedes, and Tenney believes that he's a spirit of nature that is merely warning citizens of Detroit of things to come, like an ancient helper. So it's kind of a matter of, does he bring the things he precedes, or is he just showing up before them to warn you, hey, something bad's gonna happen, like, better prepare.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of a hard one. Because, I mean, he's a really chill guy, so, like, I don't think he's doing anything out of, like...
He's just advocating for Nain.
Yeah.
Stop Nain shame. I like that. I like
don't
that
shame
poster.
And there we have it.
Nice.
Little
I like they made him a little devil. He's got the beads.
Yeah, the Mardi Gras. It's alright, he's a demon baby.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd check that one out either. I'd be like, alright, okay, bye. But he's so cute. Alright, I have one more story for you.
Okay. I'm ready.
This one gets a little dark.
Oh.
So, I got a lot of this information from this really interesting short PBS documentary called Blame the Tokolosh, which is the name of the goblin-like creature we'll be talking about.
Okay.
So there's a few different pronunciations, Tokolosh being the most common. There's Tokoloshi or Tokolochi. And it's an extremely common legend in South Africa. So, I'm going to describe Tokolosh to you.
Okay.
And I want you to draw him. So, if you need to write down these prompts, you can do that. But
Okay.
he is described as a small, hairy, goblin-like creature with withered gray skin, large pointed ears, long bony fingers with sharp nails. Some are said to have tails, but that part seems to be less common.
Also, double tails?
Some of them are said to have tails, but it's kind of a less common descriptor, so if you want to have one.
It just sounds like an old man right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, kind of. Here's a part that's a little different, though. They have gouged out eyes and
oh my god.
a hole in their skull where the witch that created them inserted a hot metal rod to bring them to life. So that's a Tokolosh.
Like in the front of his?
Yep, in his forehead.
Okay. That is horrifying, actually. Like, that scares me.
I have, like, a diagram of one that I'll show you later once you've drawn yours, and we can kind of compare.
I think, I was having fun with, like, the old man eyes, but I could tell he had no eyes. Like, in a fucking hole in
Maybe
his head.
they're just, like, really sunken in, and he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. Well, see, the reason they have so many different descriptions is because typically they're not actually seen, or maybe just a glimpse of them, because they only come out at night and feed off the misfortune and pain they cause to humans.
Lovely.
Very sweet little creatures. But, yeah, they're really not, because they're blamed for every type of crime you could think of, such as theft, murder, sexual assault. They're also blamed for hardships such as death or divorce. So basically, any crime or hard time you might be going through, you blame the Tokolosh.
I was gonna say, it seems like one of those situations where like, oh, it's not me with the issues, it's the Tokolosh.
So something else is going on here, some dark magic.
Okay.
And they can supposedly also enter your nightmares and possess people. I read an article in a South African newspaper called The City Press titled, How to Get Rid of the Tokolosh.
Okay.
And in it was this quote from a Sangoma, which I will explain what a Sangoma is a bit later. But his name is Dudlamanzi Joseph Misibini. And he said, I've seen cases where the Tokolosh is in complete control of a person. It inhabits and controls them. People black out and wake up naked in the middle of a field when the Tokolosh decides to take a rest. They have no idea how they got there or what they've been doing, in some cases for days prior. So, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Really going back to that demon thing. But going back to where Tokolosh come from, they're always created by a witch using dark magic of sorts. Some say that it's the witch's familiar. Like she has this animal creature that goes out and does her bidding, or maybe even the witch herself in a different form. But more commonly, they're said that the witch creates them using things like dirt and parts of dead bodies, like from a graveyard, and or maybe a doll or parts of actual animals. So yeah, pretty dark, like dark craft time.
Really dark arts.
And the reason for the debate on how it's made is that only a witch knows exactly how to create one.
Oh.
So yeah, just kind of based on how it looks is what they've decided. Either way, it's created to carry out the dark deeds of the witch that she doesn't want to do herself. Some versions say that it also wears a magic stone or charm that makes it invisible to everyone except the witch who created it. So, you might ask me, how do you avoid a Tokolosh?
I might.
Well, I'll tell you.
Okay.
It's said that their downfall is that they're terrible climbers. So people lift their beds with bricks to keep them out of reach of the Tokolosh, so they can't like climb up
Is it
on
like
their
really
beds.
short?
Yeah, they're little short goblin things.
Oh,
And
okay.
They,
I need to make this a little more hunchy.
yeah, they're really bad at climbing. So if you raise your bed up with bricks, then hopefully they won't be able to climb up on your bed and get you.
Okay, bricks.
Yeah. So that's only a temporary fix, though. If a witch has sent a Tokolosh after you, there's only one way to fully get rid of it, and that's with the help of a Sangoma, like the man quoted before. Okay. So a Sangoma is a traditional and spiritual healer in the community who's believed to have been called upon by their ancestors to protect others from witchcraft. And they can do other, like, they're normally just normal members of your community. Like, they could be teachers. They actually use their healing in real medical practices. They could be lawyers. They're just anybody, but they're specifically called on to be defenders against dark magic and such as well.
Okay.
So for these situations, they can use that traditional healing to rid the Tokolosh from the area and the people who are affected by it. But as you might have guessed, with it being blamed for all these crimes, the big current problem is the widespread blaming of the Tokolosh for actual crimes. Like, if a crime happens and you blame the Tokolosh, well, an actual crime has been committed either way, so it's often like a scapegoat, so for crimes committed by real people.
Right.
There was this one story that was mentioned in that PBS video where in the 1990s, multiple children were found to have sewing needles inserted in various parts of their bodies. Just, like, stabbed into them all over. The kids are still alive. They're just, like, getting stabbed with sewing needles all the time. And their own mothers blamed this on Tokolosh, even though it was definitely the work of, like, caretakers, maybe a relative, or, like, daycare in the area, or, like, in the neighborhood. But the reason that people, like, blame the Tokolosh all the time, and not only in this case, but in other violent crimes, usually with sexual assault cases, is that by blaming the Tokolosh, they can get actual, like, medical and spiritual help from a Sangoma without being afraid of alienating themselves or, like, family members of their community alienating themselves or facing retaliation from their attacker if they're still out there and getting away with it and they report it. You know, maybe things aren't the best and they might retaliate against them, but if they just say it was a Tokolosh, they can get the help they need to heal from it without fear of retaliation, which really sucks.
Yeah.
Another terrifying example of how real this can be to people is that in 1933, a man killed his 9-year-old nephew, who he had mistaken for a Tokolosh. So he thought he was the actual creature, like, in his house.
Oh my god.
Yeah. This was actually made into a movie in 1999 called A Reasonable Man. And I think in the movie it's like a baby. I'm not sure. I only read like IMDb on it, but it's got like a 6 out of 10 stars. I don't know. It was the directorial debut of the guy who did Wolverine Origins.
Interesting.
Yes. But yeah, so that's a really awful, sad case that was turned into a thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, how do you come back from that? That just sounds awful.
So, like, I mean, it's a real fear that, like, it's so common in this culture to blame the Tokolosh and that they commit these crimes, and so maybe you believe it's a real thing that's lurking about in the night, and you see something scary in the middle of the night, and you make a mistake like that. It's horrifying. I mean, that's similar things have happened, like, other places. Like, thinking maybe it's an intruder, but it's someone you know. Like,
yeah, I hate to think about that kind of stuff.
But yeah, so no one really knows exactly when or where the legend of the Tokolosh started. It's just so ingrained into the culture, kind of like the boogeyman. And, like, even in criminal cases here in the U.S., sometimes, like, if you don't know who it is and they're, like, just a figment of the night, you describe them as, like, kind of a boogeyman. Except, you know, we know it's a real person, not a mythical creature behind it. Whereas,
Right.
like, you're blaming a creature for crimes committed by people, but it's kind of the same idea there of just how ingrained it is as an idea.
Yeah, and there's still plenty of superstitions here.
Oh, for sure. People believe all sorts of things. I believe a lot of things. Hopefully I wouldn't, like, kill anyone over it, but...
Don't think you're, like, got a ghost in your bathroom and then... I don't know. Like, ghosts aren't supposed to be able to physically hurt you, but after watching some movies, I'm like,
activity. Demons. Goblins are demons.
Yeah, no, that'd be scary shit.
Yeah. Getting kind of sad again. One theory that I did find as to why the Tokolosh might have been created in the first place goes back to that theory of sleeping raised off the ground in order to avoid it. So traditionally, many South Africans would sleep on grass mats around a wood fire, but every now and then people who were completely healthy the night before would suddenly be found dead in the morning with no explanation.
Oh.
So it became the Tokolosh was killing them. But the scientific theory of why that might have happened was not a creature summoned by witchcraft, but an excess of carbon monoxide caused by sleeping so close to a fire in their homes and lack of ventilation. But with the strategy of sleeping up higher to be out of the grips of the Tokolosh, they'd also be out of the reach of carbon monoxide more because it's thicker than oxygen, so it sinks to the bottom of the home, like where you'd be sleeping on the grass mat. So by sleeping up higher, they're avoiding the Tokolosh and not waking up mysteriously dead in the morning. And on that is the history of the Tokolosh and goblins.
That's really interesting. It's like a really sad note to end on.
Yeah, I have a picture of a Tokolosh that I think will bring up the mood a bit. But, yeah, I'd never heard of them before, but in doing this research, I just, like, kind of fell down this hole. There's so many cases about the Tokolosh. They're in media everywhere in South Africa. Like, I found a lot of newspapers, like that article of how to get rid of one. There was that little documentary, like...
No.
I saw just covers and covers of newspapers saying, a Tokolosh did this. A Tokolosh divorced my husband. Like,
Tokolosh divorced. I was just like, I like the name Tokolosh. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be kind of a cute story about more goblins, and then suddenly,
grandpa.
Yeah, like it's an old man.
I mean, when you're dealing with dark magic, it's some dark stuff.
Yeah, no, I imagine. No, I like to pretend I'm not superstitious, but, you know, I have a hard time falling asleep during the witching hour.
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah, maybe that's when these come out, too. I don't know. Well, and, like, seeing, like, the images that they showed in the video, like, they had the x-rays of the kids with needles in them, and it's just like, oh, how could you...
Like, really deep in? Or
like,
is it, like, kind of the thing where you could just, like, poke it through your skin and it's, like a...
all the way in where, like, just the head's kind of sticking out.
Oh,
like, not
no.
through the skin, but, like, into their bodies.
That's awful.
Mm-hmm. And so it was probably, like a caretaker and maybe even a family member who was taking care of them. But it was multiple kids in the area, so it was probably, like, a community daycare, but I don't think anything ever came of it.
Hopefully whoever it was got sacked.
Yeah. It's really sad to think that people sometimes can't point out who actually did it, like, for fear of their own lives, that the legal system isn't, like, good enough to take care of the problem. And I know there's a lot of details that go into it. I'm not a lawyer, but, like...
Right. No, and we've got plenty of... I don't know if there's any super sound, like... Unless you go to maybe... I don't want to say Sweden and, like, all those countries got it. But there's some places that are more about rehabilitation than about incarceration, because there's a lot of problems with our system.
Oh, for sure. And I don't know all that much about South Africa.
Yeah, I don't know
what the legal system is like, but...
Yeah, so... Either way, it's just sometimes scary to be reminded of the terrible thing that people can be doing and are capable of. But, you know, yeah, I'm trying to make a like a butthole pucker in this guy's forehead. But,
He's really cute, I'd say.
I know, I was, like, trying to, like...
He's got, like, his dentures in.
Yeah, I was going for that, like, thinking, like, the old man kind of... Old man pants.
He's got little pants.
I just didn't want to draw him, like, butt naked. But, yeah, that'll do it, I think. Well, should I give him a tail?
Sure.
Beep.
You want to see the Tokolosh?
Sure. No, I like this rendition a lot more, although that hole in his head is terrifying.
So, yeah, skull hole.
Yeah. Okay, so if they're generally made out of clay, why are they so hairy? Like, I know there's, like, dead bodies,
well,
too.
it's like the dead bodies, probably, or, like, some of them are made out of animals, maybe. So, like, the fur of an animal.
Kind of terrifying, actually.
Yeah, he's got little nipples.
I just needed to make him more of a bloated
Yeah, the
old
skin
man.
is withered and gray, like from the corpse that it was made of.
Oh, dear God. I
Yeah,
don't like all the...
uses its other senses to find its way around.
Yeah,
It's a cutie, ain't he?
It's, you know, I don't think I was that far off, but...
No, yours looks pretty good. He's got more of, like, big old man ears.
I went for, like, a kind of... Because honestly, if something like that came into my room, I wouldn't be as scared as if, like, say, an old white man with no eyes came in. But, like, I could definitely see where that would be scary, too. And there we have the lore of goblins.
Beautiful.
God, that just last one fucked with me a bit.
Yeah, it took me a while researching that one. I was like, oh boy.
Like,
I don't really have a good note to end this on. It's all pretty sad. Like,
right. Like, I'd like to imagine that there's little, like, demon-y creatures walking around instead of other people that I could see on the street. Like, the idea that you walk past. I mean, everyone's capable of it, really,
right.
But...
You don't think the lady you're dropping your kid off at daycare with is gonna stick needles in him? Like...
You really fucking hope not. Like... I mean, I just can't.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't really have a note to end that on other than thank you for bringing them to life in wonderful doodles.
I had a lovely time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.
Excited to do this again. Like, leave a comment or a like if you wanna. Or if nobody's watching, that's fine too. But,
you know, even if we have one person who watches, hi, sorry we called you a goblin if my boyfriend's listening.
Yeah, Brooke,
our one listener.
I'm talking about you. Emily might not be, but I'm targeting you. Alright, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
And this has been Dastardly Doodles.
See you next time.
Bye.